Hello, everyone. This week's First Chapter Friday is actually the first book in a series. The series is called Kickers. It is all about soccer, and each book is kind of standalone. So if you enjoy this and you want to check it out, but it has already been checked out, you can always run by the library and grab a different book that will still be a part of the series, but will just be a slightly different plot. So, Chapter 1, Book 1 is called The Ball Hogs. Chapter 1, Like a Real Player. That kid is fast, Ben said as a tall, thin boy ran across the soccer field. He sure is, said Aaron. I hope he's on our team. He must be, said Ben. Why else would he be here? But Ben hoped that the kid was not on their team. He had seen him at recess during school. Ben knew that the kid's name was Mark, and he was a pain and bossy. And once he'd called Ben Brushhead after his mom had cut his hair. But Ben liked his hair the new way, and when it was longer, it would always get in his eyes. Ben put his foot on top of his soccer ball and rolled it around. Let's practice, he said. He gave the ball a kick, and it rolled toward Aaron. Aaron kicked at the ball, but it didn't go to Ben. It spun over to the side. Ben ran toward the ball, but the tall kid got to it first. He stopped it with his foot and grinned at Ben, but Ben didn't really like the way he was smiling. He looked tough, and he was big for only 9. Are you one of the Bobcats? Mark asked. Yes, Ben said. So is she. Ben nodded toward Aaron, who was walking over. I hope you're good at dribbling, Mark said. You're both kind of short, especially her. Mark pointed at Aaron. She was a few inches shorter than Mark, but she was a good athlete. Ben stepped between Mark and Aaron. This is our first time playing on a soccer team, he said. We don't know if we're good at it or not. Well, I'm good, Mark said. I'll be the star of this team. Ben looked at Aaron and smiled. He felt nervous and didn't know what else to do. Practice hadn't even started yet, and Mark was already acting like a big shot. A woman in a green t-shirt blew a whistle. Over here, Bobcats, she said. I am your coach. 8 kids ran toward the woman who was carrying a net bag filled with soccer balls. Have any of you ever played soccer? She asked. Several of the kids raised their hands. On a real team? She asked, and most of the kids put their hands down. That's okay, she said. I've never coached a real team either. Mark's hand shot up again. I was on a baseball team last summer, he said. I was the best player. Well, that's good, said the woman. My name is Patty, and I played soccer in high school, but that was a long time ago, so we'll all have fun learning about the game together. The Kickers League would include kids from all over town. Ben knew most of the players from his team at Kennedy Elementary School, but some of them went on to Washington Elementary on the other side of town. Coach Patty opened the bag and handed out the balls. Ben kept his own ball, which had been a present for his 9th birthday. Let's have a race, Coach said. See the white line on the far end of the field? When I blow my whistle, we will all run to that line. The winner is the one who gets there first, but you have to have your ball with you, and the only way you can move the ball is with your feet. They set their soccer balls on the ground. I'll win by a mile, Mark said. Patty blew the whistle, and Ben kicked his ball and ran after it, trying to keep it in a straight line, but it wasn't easy. He kicked it a little more softly and then ran to it and kicked it again. Mark was way ahead of the others. He had kicked his ball far up the field and was running after it full speed. Ben kept moving and kicking his ball a little at a time and then catching up to it. He knew he could run a lot faster, but it was tricky to keep the ball close to him. Ben's last kick left the ball just over the line. He pulled it back with one foot and stood on the line as the others came running up. Looks like you're the winner, Coach Patty said to Ben. He is not, said Mark. I was much faster than he was. But your ball went so far past the line that you had to chase after it, Patty said. The point was to keep the ball with you. Mark made a sour face and stared at Ben. If it had been a real race, I would have won easily. Well, we're not here for a track meet, Coach said. We're here to play soccer. I know that, Mark said. You'll see. I'll be way better than that kid. He pointed at Ben. Ben looked away. He wished he had more than ever that Mark had not been on his team. Ben wiped his forehead with his hand. He was starting to sweat from that running, and his heart was beating fast. That was a good feeling, and it made him feel like an athlete. He took a deep breath, and he smelled the freshly cut grass. There was a lot to like about soccer already. Everything. except Mark. For the rest of the afternoon, Coach had them work mostly on controlling the ball and passing. After practice, Ben and Aaron started to walk home. They lived on the same block, just a few houses away from each other. "Wait up!" yelled Mark. Ben turned with a scowl. "What do you want?" he asked. "I told you I'd be the best," Mark said. "You weren't the best. There were a lot of good players here." "Well, I was better than you," Mark said. A car horn beeped, and Mark turned to look. "That's my mom," he said. "I'll see you twerps next time." And he ran off. "He acts tough, doesn't he?" Aaron said. Ben just nodded. A guy like that could spoil all the fun this season. Erin stopped walking and undid her shin guards. "These are a little uncomfortable," she said. "I'm just leaving mine on," Ben said. If anyone saw him walking home, he wanted them to know he was a soccer player. Of course, he was carrying his ball too, but lots of kids had soccer balls. The shin guards made him look like a real player. "You'll get used to them," Ben said. "Well, I hope so," said Erin. "I barely noticed them during practice, but they did start poking my skin after a while." "Soccer players are tough," Ben said with a smile. "Can't let a little thing like stinging shins stop us." "Oh, sure, you're real tough," Erin said, teasing. "Remember the other day when a spider was spinning a web from your bicycle to the fence and you had to get your brother to chase it off?" "It was a big spider," Ben said. He was a little embarrassed, but he laughed at himself anyway. "And maybe it was poisonous." "It wasn't poisonous." "Well, it was big. I thought Larry might want to study it, and that's why I had him come out." "Sure you did, Mr. Tough Guy. Larry wants to be a scientist. Yeah, I'm sure he could find his own spiders to study if he wanted." They were nearly home. Ben stopped walking and tossed his soccer ball into the air. As it came down, he tried to catch it on his thigh and bounce it again, but it fell off to the side. Ben had seen some high school kids practicing just that type of juggling. Some of them could keep the ball in the air for several minutes at a time. It was a skill he was eager to learn, but it certainly wasn't easy. They'd reached Aaron's house. "I'll see you tomorrow at school," she said. "Don't let the spiders bite." "Bye." Spiders didn't really bother Ben very much. He was tough. At least, he thought he was. Being around Mark today had made him feel sort of weak and puny. But he wouldn't let that get to him. He'd show Mark who was the better player. So that is chapter 1 of the first book of Kickers. Again, like I said, this is a whole series. So if you are interested in this book at all, or just in soccer in general and are looking for a good sports book, come on down to the library and check one out.